Today we're going to be speaking with State Representative Yvonne Lewis Holley. Ms. Holley has been in politics for some time and is very effective. We're going to try to get her on the phone.
Hello?
Good morning, Representative Holley. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm magnificent. I'm actually close to your area and would like to know if you would come driving while black with me. Our destination is success.
Oh, I would love to drive while black today. It's a beautiful day.
Yes, ma'am, it is. I'll see you shortly then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning,
I am
Representative?
doing good. I'm enjoying such a pretty day.
It is a beautiful day. Give greetings to everybody.
Oh, good morning, everybody. How you doing this morning?
And I introduced you, but I also would like for you to introduce yourself and your full name and title.
I am State Representative Yvonne Lewis Holley. I represent District 38, which is actually a part of Southeast and all of Northeast Raleigh.
What made you decide to go into politics?
Okay, I was born and raised and lived in a community where it was expected of us. We, in elementary school, when I was up here at Mary E. Phillips Elementary School, used to be one of the polling places, but
Yes,
we worked the
ma'am.
polls.
Mm.
Former Mayor Lightner, I grew up across the street from former Mayor Lightner. I lived next door to Harold Webb. And the community itself was an active community, and we always were told that we had to serve and give back. So I was raised with that mentality.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So that's what made me kind of begin to do community service. Now my community service took more of a political turn when I moved back to North Carolina and hung out with my dad for a while and saw a lot of things that were happening that I did not care for, and decided that I would try to do something about it.
And you wanted to change it.
Yeah, I wanted to make some changes.
Okay. And you recently had, which I was an attendee of, a kickoff to your campaign for this election.
Yes, I'm running for re-election in the November. I do not have a primary, but I have two candidates that are running against me in the general election.
Okay.
And that will be November the 6th, I think is the date this year. Excuse me.
So with your campaign, there's several topics that are affecting the areas that you service. One of the most popular topics that everybody is talking about is housing.
Now let me say, housing is our new most popular topic amongst the white infrastructure and institutions, but it is not a new topic in our community.
Indeed.
We've been talking about it for some time. It became, let me say this. I find that, our black politicians and most of us, yes, we want a Dick's Park. We'd love to have a nice park. We want bike paths. We love to have those kind of things. But there are other things that are in our community where the needs are greater and more basic.
Yes,
one of the things that happened with that last mayoral campaign was Charles Francis started running, talking about parks and bike paths, and they were not his area of focus until he really came into the community and saw the changes and what was going on. Then his message became the message of the people that he was trying to represent.
Indeed.
Some of the people that he tried to represent.
Indeed.
And as a result of that campaign, and that map showed the division in the city.
Yes.
It showed that we have issues that half the city felt need to be addressed. I think they're beginning to talk about it now, but I think I'm tired of being studied. I'm tired of having committees that gives reports, and I want to see some action.
That's right. So what plans, if any, what plans does your campaign and you have for this situation?
Well, I've done some things privately,
Yes.
on a personal level.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, now I fought and argued against a lot of the redevelopment going on now because I didn't think it was done in an inclusive manner,
Yes, ma'am.
in the way that I'd like to see it happen. And I continue that fight that was wrong, and it still is wrong.
Yes, ma'am.
But the realist in me is that they've already broken ground on those houses, and they're beginning to build.
Yes, ma'am.
So our reality is, how many minorities can we get in those houses? How many people from that neighborhood or formerly from that community or just this community that have been disenfranchised can we get into those houses? So everywhere I go, I talk about it. I've referred a lot of people to the city and for nonprofits that are involved to get into it. And I can say that I know of about maybe 15 African Americans who 2 years ago, year and a half ago, would not be in a position to buy a house that may be able to do something with this plan. So, you know, while I disagree with the project, it's on the way.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is dual. If it's on the way, we got to get some of us in there.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, ma'am. Now, another popular topic that you have been talking about for a long time is the situation of the food deserts.
Oh, food insecurity,
And
yes.
food insecurities.
Yes.
And I remember when we very first lost the MLK Kroger,
Yes.
is when everybody else, you know, started coming on along. But you were actually talking about it for a long time, even prior to that.
Yeah, and then I got beat up pretty bad when I said what I said at that meeting, because I said that when we get a grocery store in our community, we
Yep.
need to go to that grocery store
That's
and
right.
not drive across town.
That's right.
You know, and
Well, sometimes we take beatings for we take one for the team.
I took one for the team.
Yes, ma'am.
But when I got into the legislature, I tried to figure out something that we could do.
Right.
And when I started researching, and I realized that it's more than just food deserts, it's food insecurity, and that the problem was a lot greater than just my district in my community.
Right.
So I began to do research and find out what was going on the national level, and came up with several different ideas and submitted a bill on food deserts, trying to get nutrient-rich foods into our communities.
Yes, ma'am, and that's what I appreciate about your aspect, because I've heard a lot of folks talk about getting food into our communities, yet you just don't want any food
No.
in our community. You actually make efforts to reach out to fresh and raw food
And
more
nutrient-rich.
healthy and nutrient-enriched foods.
Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
And what's exciting was when we first, once I was able to convince the legislature that this was even an issue, they didn't even think it was an issue. The first meeting, they gave us a little meeting room, and they thought they were just going to go through the motions to just kill it.
Right.
There were so many people there, and there were 75 people in the hallway, that they realized, oh, this must be an issue. And some of the good things that came out of that was the people that came to those meetings began to talk to each other. And we began to see that it wasn't just a Southeast Raleigh problem.
Right.
It was a statewide problem and a national problem, and things that are being done over here can maybe help somebody in another county. So people began to work together, and I found that exciting.
Okay. And there was some finance that was allotted.
Yes.
To help in that situation too.
Yes, my the initial bill was trying to get grocery stores in our communities, and it was really broad based, and I had trouble getting all of that through. So I tried another strategy, which is break it down into components. With a component that seemed to be the one that was easiest to implement and would have the most immediate impact was a corner store initiative.
Okay.
And if you remember back in the day, we used to have corner stores that sold everything.
Yes,
and the
ma'am.
little general stores
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you could get fresh produce down
Yes,
there if you
ma'am.
needed it. Was trying to bring that back to our community, that our corner stores and our convenience stores sell more than just junk food, cigarettes, and beer.
Right.
You know, so this project is to help them. We found out that one of the reasons that they don't carry a lot of this stuff is they don't have refrigeration. And they don't pay for refrigeration. Most of their refrigeration is donated by beer companies or milk companies.
That's right.
So what the actual bill does, it provides refrigeration and equipment and shelving and stuff needed for nutrient-rich food so it can be handled properly in these facilities. And it connects the vendor or the store owner with sources of supply.
Okay. Another thing that the community is really looking to politicians for assistance for is our youth.
Yes.
Being that you just kicked off your campaign, are there any plans for our youth within your campaign?
Yes, you know, I love young people.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, right now I'm trying to just mentor as many people as I can. My schedule's kind of topsy-turvy. I used to do a lot of things with young girls with the YWCA.
Yes.
And I try to go and support as many activities as I can. Currently, I'm trying to speak to different groups and educate them on the process. I'm learning that when I talk to people, they don't understand the difference between what the city council does over the county commissioners, over the state, and that we have some education that we need to do in our communities to help people understand. So when you go to hold somebody accountable, hold them accountable for something that is within the control that they have.
Right. Because that does seem to be, you know, sometimes political ignorance does sometimes plague our community.
Yes,
so
it does.
We're fussing at you about potholes in the street.
and I have the same problem on my street. I'm calling about a pothole too.
Yeah, that does happen. So, and keeping in line with the conversation of the youth, and I was talking to a young brother, and I actually talked to a lot of, you know, young individuals, and they seem to feel that they get marginalized by the older generation as it pertains to taking leadership. And this is not just in politics.
I understand what you're saying.
It's not just in politics. There are in other aspects, but being that you are a political figure, is there any way you could speak more to that? Because that is something that is discussed heavily.
And I understand it because I was marginalized. I was a black female trying to get on the political scene. And I was told, go home, little girl. You know, I mean, you know, you need to cool your jets. So I do understand. But what I found is that you make a place. That there is some things for seniority, and seniority and experience cannot be duplicated. But you also need the fresh and the new. Now, sometimes it, you know, in instances like in Congress, it's seniority that gets you to chair those committees. You know, so in order to be, you know, that's one of the big steps. But we also, if you're a chair of a committee, that means that you've been there a period of time. But you still need your pulse on young people to find out what's going on so you can bring all of the information from all of the community to the table. Now, young people, they want their voices to be heard. Okay, can they speak for me? Can they speak for an older generation as well, if they got in this position, you know, without the experience? So whoever's there in the position has to be able to talk to groups and understand those that are not represented. So I am a senior citizen by some standards, your standards.
I didn't say that.
I still like to think I'm got a little spunk left in me, you know, because I do. You know, so so I try to stay connected with young people so that I can bring their issues and the way they want to the table. You know, so that's how I try to do it. I try to stay as connected to young people and keep my pulse on the community as much as possible, all facets of it, so that I can make a best educated decision at the time.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Now, I believe last year you and I were having a conversation as it pertains to the multiple families living in hotels.
Oh, yes.
In Wake County. And you were heavily involved in strong fighting in that situation to eradicate and eliminate that.
I am still doing what I can.
Where are we at now as far as getting that situation eliminated?
Well, we're a long ways from getting it eliminated. First of all, there's not enough housing to put them anywhere. If they did have the resources, these are working poor, people who can pay a hotel, sometimes as much as $125 a night to stay in a hotel. They can afford housing, but it must be affordable. There's not enough affordable housing out here for them. So we as a community are going to have to do some things to make housing affordable, or to insist upon some affordable housing being available in the community. Now, affordable, let's talk about what's affordable.
Yes, ma'am. And also give me some strategies when you say we as a community has to do things. Let us know
some things that we as African Americans can do. Right now we're seeing so much gentrification.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you make the decision and you own property in an area that's being gentrified, I know that you want to maximize your dollars if you decide to sell. But there are African Americans out here who are willing to invest. And see if you can reach out and find someone who's willing to take that property and invest in it to make it maybe affordable, affordable housing, or at least benefit the community from which it's come. You know, hopefully that you will see the value in some of the property that you are trying to, that you own. You know, you may want somebody to see if you can find some assistance in renovating it and living it, because these communities and these values on this property are going sky high. Now, as far getting back to the women and the children in the hotels, there's a program with the Salvation Army called Project Catch, and More Than a Roof. And they're the only programs that deal exclusively with women and children in hotels. Project Catch provides after school and as many support things as it can, and wraparound services for the children that they've identified in some of the hotels that are in their program.
I didn't know that.
And this is such a new, but this is what I'm saying. When I met them maybe a year and a half ago, these are just some eager social working women who didn't understand the scope of what they were getting into. And I must say they have come a long way, and now they're bringing a lot of attention to the issue. They're beginning to have fundraisers and things to help finance. They're educating the community a little bit more on the problem and some of the solutions. So I'm real pleased to say that I've worked with them and I support all of their efforts. As well as the wonderful things that Jessica Holmes and the Wake County government that she has initiated with housing and what have you, and some things with the city. I can't rule out and say that the College Park area is totally bad, because, you know, home ownership is still a good thing for affordable home ownership is still needed, you know, but we do need affordable rental housing as well. And people have to want to. So, you know, if you got any air property or a lot that's sitting there and you don't know, call somebody. Call and say, is there anybody out here who's trying to develop land? Or, you know, we have some people who want to build some homes in our communities, you know, and they're looking for lots or housing. And let some African Americans flip. If you're going to flip, let it be flipped by an African American sometimes, and expand our black business basis. We need to buy black when we can.
Are there any new aspects to this campaign that you're bringing that you haven't done in your previous campaigns? Are there any new issues that you would like to address?
Not new issues, but trying to look at new ways of doing it. We hope that this legislator that was coming in with this election, that break the supermajority, if not gain the legislature back as a Democrat. And if that's the case, then we're trying to equip ourselves to come in with some programs and some things to help. And we're going to have a lot of changes to make because we've got a lot of bad things we got to undo.
Yes,
you know, and
yes,
it's going to take a while and a little bit of a process. But I'm excited about those possibilities. Some things that we can do and, you know, maybe can be done on a local level, you know, and zoning,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, to allow certain things. We need to understand that one size does not fit all. You know, and I'll make an example. When I first got there was a bill called aesthetics. And the aesthetics bill was by people in Cary in some of those rich neighborhoods that were upset because builders were requiring porches and shutters and different aesthetic things on these homes. Like in some parts, they were even having to have brick steps and brick porches, you know, for certain communities were making them do that they felt were raising the costs that were making the communities unaccessible for some. So they wanted to be able to do some more affordable housing, so they wanted to do away with the aesthetics. Now that's fine in Cary, but in our community, the porch may be the one factor that makes that house not look like a trailer. Or shutters are small. So, you know, I don't want a box in my community. I want the homes to look nice and presentable. And so what we need to do is we need to look at those kinds of laws when they're making them and recognize one size does not fit all and adapt. You know, the laws about, I think, so many bathrooms or kitchens. If you have so many people, if you have a kitchen, you can have so many people living in it. Or so many bathrooms, so many people living in the house. You know, okay, so a lot of people who want to add these granny flats, you know, or do a mother-in-law suite, and they want the ability, the laws to allow them to do that, may in our community may end up in some areas of poverty something different. You know, you know, and we have to be careful to protect property owners as well as communities, so our people aren't forced into substandard housing.
Could you please explain the importance of regaining control of the legislature?
Okay, the importance is, and I know a lot of people are saying I'm tired of the Democrats and the Republicans, and I understand that because politics are just not clean all the time. It's just not a cut and dry yes or no answer to a lot of the situation. But for the Democrats to get back in control, we can begin to do things like Medicaid expansion. I think that would be the first thing that we would all do, is expand Medicaid. That would open up so many jobs in our communities and allow people who don't have health care get it. So getting that alone is worth the Democrats getting back in power. They did away with the earned income tax credit in North Carolina. North Carolina is the only state that has done away with the earned income tax credit. That's something that I fought. I will bring that back so women with and people with low incomes get that tax credit again. That is a hand up and not a hand out. See, so there are a number of programs that the slashing to our educational system, the draining of the funds from the public schools that is going to the private schools and parochial schools. You know, to me, public school money belongs in public schools. You know, if you're a private school, you have a decision to make. But charter, now public charters do deserve public money. Private charters do not. You know, if you're a private school, as a parent, you make that choice of the options that you have. Now, don't get me wrong. When the Democrats go in, I'm going to have to fight my Democratic colleagues just as hard as I fight these Republicans for some things for my community.
Indeed.
Because that's the way it was before.
And that point is not brought up enough.
Right.
You know, a lot of folks think that just because you guys share that Democrat plate and name that you all agree.
Point in question.
About everything.
Right. You know, I mean, that we agree about everything. Well, right now, the enemy, the perceived enemy is bigger.
Right.
You know, so we're
Yeah.
kumbaya on the overall because none of us are getting anything.
Right.
But when we start to begin to go back and say, what programs do we want? My agenda may be different from a colleague's agenda.
Right.
You know, and we all are going to be trying to do what's best for our particular communities. You know, now we run from a district, but I truly feel that we represent the whole state.
Right.
And I have to do that because when I go to a legislator in a rural area and I say, I have a problem in my district and I need you to help me with. I did that with the food insecurity, the food desert.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, in order to get their help, I have to also understand what their needs in their communities are. And they may have something that they want me to understand and work with them on. So you got to be able to communicate even with people across the aisle to get things done.
Yes, ma'am. So let me ask you this, and not just as your campaign, but I mean when you hang up your political hat, what does success look like for you, where you can look back and say, Yvonne, you did your thing. You did everything you could do, and you utilized all your resources to make things better.
When I see,
What does it look like for you?
and
What is
it's
success?
beginning to happen,
Mhm.
and that is young people stepping up to the plate.
Mm.
Now, and getting prepared and recognizing that they have the power to implement change. See, I was a child of the 60s doing integration. To see these young people begin to realize that their voice is making the world listen and change, that excites me. So I want more and more young people to become engaged. I talk about this, the phone, the cell phone.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, and when I talk to young people, I say to them, this technology is great, but nothing beats a conversation. Nothing beats looking somebody in the eye and understanding what they say. You know, because you can say the same thing 3 or 4 different ways and have the same meaning. In a text, it's interpreted by what you were thinking, not what the person intended.
Indeed.
You know, and so we have to be conscious. So the successful young people are going to be the ones that can bridge the gap between oral communication and people skills and tech. You know, so I'm trying to encourage them to go back to sitting down and having conversation.
Do you think that, as it pertains to our youth, that they may feel a little shunned, and circling back to the original question we first had about being marginalized away from what they call them is the old guard?
But you have to be assertive. You know, I mean, people are not going to see you if you don't let me know you're there.
True.
Okay?
True.
You know, if I don't know there's a problem, I can't help you with it.
Okay.
So, you know, there has to be, you can sit here and complain, but if you don't ever make an action, then you will not get a result. I'm hungry, but if I don't get up and go to the kitchen to get something to eat, I'm not going to eat. So you have to engage. And this is when you call us and you ask us, can you talk to us? Or invite us to a meeting or engage us in dialogue, because we want to talk to you. We need to know what you're thinking. And you also need to understand some of the processes and reasons behind we make some decisions that we make. I think that the communication is the key now, to a lot of things. And young people need to be encouraged. You know, I'm so glad. I joke all the time. We tell them, oh yeah, we want y'all to come out here and run, but don't just run against me. Don't run against me. You can run, but don't run against me.
Right.
You know, but I can't be upset because somebody wants to do what I want to do.
Right.
You know,
because they feel the same way.
Because they
as
feel
you
the
did
same
about
way
it when you were there.
Right. So you have to respect that they want to run against you.
Yes, ma'am.
However, currently I feel like I'm the best person for the job.
Okay.
So as long as I feel that I can contribute at a level that really has a positive impact on my community, I will do so.
So when you, like, as I stated earlier, hang your political hat up.
What do I see myself doing?
No. Well, would you be a politician that would allow a younger individual to move, and would you assist them to move in your position if you feel they are prepared, if you feel that they are, up to standard? We're not just talking about, grabbing somebody because they're young,
Here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to tap somebody as heir apparent, because that's not my job. I want it to come from the community. What I want the community to decide who replaces me, if and when I'm replaced. I want to help young people get ready. And then if they're ready, and when they're ready, and I will encourage them all. But I really, truly, truly feel that ultimately the community needs to make those decisions as to who their leadership is. It's when you feel like somebody else picked who's going to lead you, when you generally get upset.
Do you have any other events, fundraisers, anything coming up while you're on your campaign trail?
Well, I just had a fundraiser this week. It's just to kick the campaign off. I don't want to get in the way of the primary, because I don't have a primary election. Indeed. So for right now, I'm kind of just doing, just a little fundraising and going to events and trying to listen. I'm on the committee about the school safety. So I've been doing a lot of reading and getting up and meeting with people.
Say more about that school safety after, say more about that.
Yes, in fact, I just got to reading. The governor's proposal, what he wants to do in the budget. That gives me an idea of how much money is available. So hopefully that he sees that he could put in the budget, that it's very important. Let me say this. I'm in that room, and I'm going to make sure our kids' voices get heard.
Yes, ma'am.
In the committee the other day, when they were talking about bringing in volunteers, former military, former police, and to work in some of these schools, I expressed the concern that our community has, that they may be more afraid of a school resource officer or some volunteer in the community shooting them than a mass shooter.
Indeed.
And that this is real, and
Indeed.
that if we address anything, any of this training or any of this stuff, must be done with the fear of those kids in mind as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And I said it in the room, and you could have dropped the pen, and I think they're kind of worried that I'm on that committee now. But that voice will get heard. I ask people to send me suggestions that they may have, and I will make sure, send it to me in writing, and I will make sure that every member of the committee receives a copy of all suggestions that I get about things that we can do to make our kids feel safer. And a lot of it is training. A lot of it is our students seem to want more facility, doors, locks, that kind of safety than resource officers, which frightens me a little bit, because they should be there to help us. So I asked the question.
You won't get shot by a locked door.
Right. And I asked the question, what is the role as a resource officer? Are they there to police the students or to protect the building?
And it sort of fuels the prison pipeline, like the school is training them and training our black children to go to prison already.
Right. But we have to be careful.
And we have to be careful with that.
I don't know what I will be able to accomplish, but I can promise you this, they will hear it. And it will not be done what they said, oh, we didn't know. Because you're going to know, because I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to give it to you in writing and let you know how my community feels. So when we take these things in, know that at least a battle has been fought.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I most definitely thank you for coming and
driving. Thank you for doing this. I think this is so cool.
Thank you.
We have to do it again.
Yes, I have you back up here again. And I also want to thank you just for your service and everything you're fighting for.
Thank you. Thank you for you.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for your bringing attention to black businesses and our community, and even driving while black. This is so cool. I think it's,
Thank you,
keep up the good work.
I will. Thank you, kindly.
We're going to have to see if we can get you on national TV.
Hey, if they're ready to cut the check, we'll discuss it.
And I want to do a shout out. I'm trying to
You
get
can
him
do
to
a shout
publish a book of his sayings that he posts. So I want everybody to tell him that they have to be in a book of his quotes.
You have everybody telling me that. Tammy Martin told me the other day, she's like,
Yeah.
we're ready for your book.
Right.
I'm like, you sound like Representative Holley.
That's right. So we're ready for his book. So he
It'll be
needs to get to
awesome.
writing some more. So thank you for having
Yes,
me
ma'am.
here today.
Thank you.
And
Always a
anything that we
pleasure.
can do to help you in the community, let me know.
I most definitely will.
Because I'm here to listen.
Yes, ma'am.